Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with some more updates coming out for the war between Russia and Ukraine, and we're going to be talking more about these North Korean soldiers joining the fight against the Ukrainians fighting alongside Russia, as we heard late last week from U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken that 8,000 North Korean soldiers would be deployed to the Kursk region to push the Ukrainians out. Now we have this huge report coming out today that Ukraine has fired on the first North Korean soldiers in Russia's Kursk Oblast. Okay, so to anybody who's paying attention to this war, this should not be surprising at all. As, like I said, just last week we were hearing North Korean soldiers were showing up in the Kursk region, so it was really a matter of time before these North Korean soldiers would be deployed to the front line. And it looks like that is the case now, okay? According to Andriy Kovalenko, the head of the Counter-Disinformation Department at Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council. Okay, so we're going to talk about that some more today. I'll show you guys that report. We also had some information that just last night as well, we had another strike inside of Kharkiv, Russia launching another attack with a missile, striking a supermarket, completely destroying it late at night. I've got video footage and some pictures coming out from there as well. Then numerous other things that I want to show you guys coming out from this war between Russia and Ukraine. So let's go ahead and start hopping into the news. We're going to jump on over to mainstream news just for a moment. I only want to show you guys a few paragraphs here. So there's not a whole lot of information on what Ukraine used to target these North Korean troops, but they definitely did fire on them according to Ukraine. Okay, so it says here from the Kiev Independent, first North Korean troops come under fire in Kursk Oblast, Ukrainian official claims. Okay, this just coming out today, Monday, November 4th, 2024. It says right here, the first North Korean soldiers stationed in Russia's Kursk Oblast to aid Moscow's war have come under fire, Andriy Kovalenko, the head of Counter-Disinformation Department at Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, reported on November 4th. The official did not provide any more details on the circumstances of the engagement or possible losses on the North Korean side. The Kiev Independent could not verify the claims. Okay, so again, we don't have all the details yet. This information is just barely starting to break now. So we know that there was some sort of engagement of the Ukrainians firing on the North Koreans. Now, was this small arms fire? Was this maybe HIMARS being used, ATACMS? Was this an airstrike? We don't really know just yet, but maybe we'll get that information here in the next 24, 48 hours. We'll see what happens. And as soon as I do get some updates on that, I will definitely let you guys know, as this is very big news and potentially official confirmation that the Ukrainians are now fighting against the North Korean soldiers. Okay, so very big news coming out today. So we're going to hop on over to X now. Let me show you some things over here. We're going to start off with a few posts regarding the North Koreans, and then we'll move on to some other things here. So from Nexta, the Korea Herald, Pyongyang and Moscow agree on Russian military involvement in Korean Peninsula in case of war. In return for deploying its forces to Russia, North Korea reportedly requested 600,000 to 700,000 tons of rice annually, a $2,000 salary for its soldiers fighting in Ukraine, and access to advanced space technology. So apparently that's one of the big reasons why North Korea agreed to send these troops over, is not only to support Russia's war effort, but at the same time, look at what they're getting. Okay, tons of rice. They obviously have an issue with food in their country. Many people are starving. And then also a $2,000 salary for each soldier fighting in Ukraine. So they're going to be making some pretty good money off of this war. And we've heard as well that a lot of this money coming from Russia over to the North Koreans, many times these salaries are not even going directly to the soldiers, that the state is actually holding the money and potentially using it even, right? So some big news coming out today. Then also, right here from Max 24, Pyongyang has secured Russian military support in case of war on the Korean Peninsula, according to the Korea Herald. So this is another topic as well. Obviously, that looks like North Korea has secured Russia's backing and their support in case a war breaks out on the Korean Peninsula between South Korea and North Korea. Okay, so that's some big news as well. That's more show of support from the Russians being willing to get involved in the war between South Korea and North Korea if this war breaks out. So obviously big news coming out from here as well. Okay, so moving on to another update from the informant. This actually came out Saturday evening, and because I was not here on Sunday to share this with you guys, I figured I would show it to you now. So, from the informant, Ukraine reports having eliminated 7 North Korean troops on the front line in Kursk and capturing 1 soldier, releasing the first image of a North Korean fighter detained by its military. Okay, so here's a photo that was released supposedly by Ukraine by a captive here from the North Koreans. That looks like Ukraine was able to take him prisoner, and they took a picture. I'm not sure if this is like a passport that he was holding, potentially, as we did hear that these North Korean soldiers would be given Russian identification, showing that they were actually from Russia, some eastern portions of Russia, not necessarily from North Korea. So that was a photo being shared late on Saturday, on November 2nd, 2024. So I thought I would show that to you guys. All right, so moving on now. From Max 24, Western security officials say they believe that 2 incendiary devices shipped via DHL were part of a covert Russian operation that ultimately aimed to start fires aboard cargo or passenger aircraft flying to the US and Canada. Moscow steps up sabotage campaign, according to the Wall Street Journal. So this is very interesting. I heard about this several weeks ago. Actually, I think I showed this to you guys as well, that apparently there was some cargo that was catching on fire, and potentially this could have been some sort of sabotage event from Russia. But looks like Western officials are now coming out and officially accusing Russia of attempting to ignite some cargo on some of these planes that were heading for the U.S. coming from Europe. So definitely more information that we're hearing in terms of sabotage inside of Europe, and more reports of Russia potentially being involved in these. Okay, so interesting information coming out today. From Max 24, over the past day, 3 Russian artillery systems and an operational tactical missile complex were hit, according to the general staff. Okay, this is interesting as well. Looks like we had potentially 3 Russian artillery systems and maybe even a tactical ballistic missile system. This is the Iskander missile system that could have been struck as well and potentially destroyed. That would obviously be really good for Ukraine, as Ukraine is attacked by lots of these Iskander missiles. So that was according to the general staff of Ukraine. Also, from Mamedov Gayundos, the occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant has recently once again entered a high-risk zone due to a water leak from a pulse line. IAEA.org reports repairs are underway, but in October the plant has already twice lost connection to the only backup power line, which is critical for the safe operation of the reactors. About 1,300 Russian military personnel are stationed on the territory of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, who have set up more than 20 minefields, which significantly increases the threat of a nuclear disaster. The militarization of such a facility contradicts IHL and endangers the lives of millions of people. So we've been hearing so many reports coming out from the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant that sometimes power lines were shut down. Looks like now we had a water leak from a pulse line. So very dangerous situation over here with the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Hopefully we do not have a nuclear event, but we have been reporting multiple events over here at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant that put this place at risk of a potential nuclear disaster, okay? So moving on to another update from Anton Gerashenko. Today there is wet snow with rain in many Ukrainian regions. The temperature at night gets below 0. It is already snowing in Kharkiv. The heating is not on in several cities. Ukraine is already getting ready to face the hardest winter in our history. There may be no electricity in Ukraine for 20 hours a day in winter if Russia strikes our critical energy system and the weather is cold. As of today, blackouts are most probable for 8 to 14 hours a day. We are expecting a very harsh winter. I don't know if the people in their apartments will be able to survive the prolonged heating and power cuts in severe cold weather. Russia's doing everything to make Ukrainians flee their country. So here's some video footage coming out from Kharkiv today showing lots of snow coming into the city. Okay, so obviously this looks very beautiful, right? But for the people in Ukraine, when it starts to get really cold over here, we know that Ukraine is having a big issue with electricity. Lots of their electricity substations, nuclear, and their power plants, have been destroyed inside of Ukraine. So they're going to be having constant blackouts as people are going to be running the heaters a lot. And if they lack energy, then obviously, they're going to have to go without it. And it gets really cold over here inside of Ukraine. So they're definitely going to be facing a very harsh winter, just like Anton Gerashenko says. So moving on to another update. From Nexta, Russia offered Ukraine capitulation at negotiations in 2022. Radio Liberty publishes a document that was handed to the Ukrainian delegation at the talks in Belarus 11 days after the start of the Russian invasion. In fact, the Kremlin wanted Ukraine to sign a capitulation, which is basically surrender. The points of this agreement are absurd and unrealizable. Russia offered Ukraine to become a puppet state, eliminate its army, and recognize the occupied regions as Russian Federation. The points of the document are as follows. Ukraine declares neutrality, reduces the army to 50,000 people, including 1,500 officers, 4 ships, 55 helicopters, and 300 tanks. That's even less than Lukashenko's army. Ukraine is forbidden to develop, produce, buy, and deploy on its territory any missiles with a range of more than 250 kilometers, and other types of weapons may be added to the list in the future. Ukraine recognizes the independence of the quasi-states LPR and DPR within the administrative boundaries of the Luhansk and Donetsk regions. Ukraine pays the cost of rebuilding Donbass infrastructure destroyed in 2014, since 2014. All Ukrainian and international sanctions are lifted from the Russian Federation, and international lawsuits filed since 2014 are withdrawn. The Russian language is given the status of the state language. Restoration of all property rights of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church or Moscow Patriarchate. Cancellation of decommunization. Refusal to introduce similar bans of Soviet symbols and ideology in the future. So pretty insane list of demands here from Russia, and it makes sense why the Ukrainians were trying to fight back against this. Here's a screenshot of this document if you guys want to take a snapshot of the screen real quick and save it. It's obviously in Russian, but let me know what you guys think about all this. Apparently this was offered to Ukraine 11 days after the start of the invasion. If you think about it, even after Russia said that in 3 days, I think they would storm onto Kiev or something like that, even 11 days later, they were basically offering capitulation over to Ukraine. So very interesting news. Let me know what you think about that down below. Now from the Ukrainian Review, the moment of Russian strike on the supermarket in Kharkiv. At this moment, 11 people are injured. So I want to talk more about this attack inside of Kharkiv once again. We've definitely been seeing a lot of this. This was just yesterday inside of Kharkiv. So over here in the top center of your screen, you're going to see a major airstrike on a supermarket over here. So take a look at this. All right, pretty insane, right? We can definitely see this missile come over here and strike this supermarket. So again, what is the significance of this strike inside of Kharkiv? We've seen lots of attacks on residential buildings inside of Kharkiv just over the last couple weeks. Now we have a supermarket even coming under attack, and I have some pictures to show you guys as well. From Liskovka, a photo of a supermarket in Kharkiv after a bomb dropped by Russian troops. The facade of the store was completely destroyed. Windows in neighboring high-rise buildings were blown out, and contact networks, rails, and lighting were damaged. 5 people were injured in the attack, said Mayor Ihor Terekov. Okay, so we got a few pictures here to show you guys of damage to this building. Looks like a lot of the windows were blown out here as well. Here's some more damage. So again, this supermarket taking a direct hit. Not sure exactly what the significance of this strike was. We can even see there's like a some sort of rail here, and it looks like it was destroyed as well here in the middle. So very sad situation. Again, as far as we know, only 5 people or so being injured in this attack. I think also this other one said 11 over here. So somewhere between 5 and 11 people being injured in this strike. We don't have any reports of anybody being killed, but very sad to see this, okay? Kharkiv is definitely being hammered a lot. Almost every single day we're reporting strikes over here, okay? So moving on to another update from Igor Sushko. Russia, 22 train cars transporting coal derailed in the occupied Republic of Bashkortostan. So this was actually reported late on Saturday night. And again, I was not here yesterday, so I figured I would show this to you guys as well. And looks like we had yet again another Russian train derailing. Okay, we've seen so much of this, especially up in the Moscow region. But looks like also in the Republic of Bashkortostan, we have another train car transporting coal that derailed as well. So this was a photo coming out from that area. So 22 train cars derailing in total. Pretty crazy. That keeps happening in Russia a lot. Also from BRICS News, just in, U.S. military and intelligence officials conclude that the war in Ukraine is no longer a stalemate as Russia makes steady gains. Okay, so let me know what you think. Do you think this war is still a stalemate for the most part, or do you think Ukraine is starting to lose now? Because we are reporting a lot recently that the Russians have been making some gains on the Eastern Front. I would say over the last maybe month or two is when we have definitely reported a lot more of this. So the Russians for sure are gaining on the Eastern Front. And now that these North Korean soldiers are showing up, this is even more firepower coming from the Russians. More soldiers that the Ukrainians have to fight up against. So definitely it's going to be a difficult and harsh winter for the Ukrainians, okay? Because also at the same time, they're having electrical issues as well, right? So now moving on to Bliskovka, Putin is unlikely to sit down at the negotiating table regardless of who wins the U.S. election, according to CNN. The outlet predicts that Harris, if elected, will largely continue the Biden administration's policy of supporting Ukraine. At the same time, the Washington Post notes that Trump's plans for a war in Ukraine may turn out to be a bad scenario for the Kremlin leader. Okay, so this is interesting also. Obviously, if we get Donald Trump, he's come out and said that he would end this war in Ukraine as president-elect before he's even actually inaugurated into office in January. So could that put pressure on Russia? Potentially, obviously, Ukraine, we've heard that they may cut off supplies to Ukraine, maybe not send them any weaponry or any money to fight this war. Ukraine could be on their own, potentially with just even the support of Europe, which most likely would not be enough to support Ukraine alone, as the United States obviously offers a bulk of the aid and support, right? So, and then if we get Kamala Harris, she most likely would just continue the policies of what Joe Biden was doing, okay, for the last 4 years or 3 years in this war. So let me know what you think down in the comment section as well. You know, based on who's going to win this election as soon as tomorrow. Will we hear tomorrow who's going to win? Maybe, maybe not. But depending on who wins, this war could go one way or another, right? So let me know what you think. Also, for Max24, Russia's importing butter from the United Arab Emirates and Turkey in a move aimed to at containing soaring prices that have alarmed consumers, Reuters reports. The price of a block of butter has risen by 25.7% since last December. That's a huge increase. That compares with an inflation rate of 8.6%. Okay, so at least in terms of butter, we know that butter has been skyrocketing inside of Russia recently. So it looks like they're taking some maneuvers to contain the soaring prices with butter. We've even seen inside of Russia some supermarkets starting to put anti-theft boxes around blocks of butter just to protect them from being stolen, as it looks like many people can't even afford butter, so they're trying to steal it inside of the stores. So pretty crazy to see that, right? Also from Nexta, from the Institute of Study of War, Russia may face air defense deficit, limiting aviation use at the front. Russia's experiencing supply issues with components for air defense production. If Ukraine significantly damages Russian systems, this shortage could restrict Russia's aviation capabilities. Okay, so this is some interesting news as well coming out from the Institute of Study of War. Them stating that Russia may not have a lot of air defenses, okay? We have been hearing of Ukraine striking a lot of air defense systems inside of Russia, also in the occupied regions of Ukraine. So if Russia does have, if they are lacking air defense units to protect their skies, then obviously, they may not be able to carry out as many airstrikes using their fighter bombers, for example, dropping glide bombs. This could be actually a really good thing for Ukraine, but we haven't really seen that. We are still seeing lots of airstrikes inside of Russia, so maybe this will take some effect into next year if this is true, but definitely some interesting information, coming out from the Institute of the Study of War. Okay, also from Globi News, Russia says Trump will not be able to stop the war in Ukraine if he wins, and if he tries, he may be assassinated. Okay, this information actually came out from Dmitry Medvedev, I believe. He was the one who stated this on either Telegram or X, he basically said that Trump would be the new JFK, essentially saying that he would be assassinated if he tried to stop the war. And again, we know that Donald Trump is attempting to put an end to this war. He also said that he would put an end to the war in the Middle East. So, maybe many people want Donald Trump to be the president to end these wars. And will he be able to do it? We don't really know yet, but it looks like he's definitely going to try. Okay, one last thing I want to show you guys before we get you out of here from Globi News. Russia's set to launch 2 private Iranian satellites into orbit. Okay, this was breaking news coming out today. And looks like this is going to be taking place tomorrow during the elections on November 5th, 2024. And they're going to be launching 2 private Iranian satellites into orbit. And this is more confirmation of Russia working side by side with the Iranians as well. So we know that Iran is working with Russia, and Russia's also working with North Korea. Okay, so their military ties together are definitely growing in strength, and we are seeing that for sure with the North Koreans right now, as we just reported at the beginning of this video. So it's getting more scary over here. Okay. The Eastern powers over here are really starting to build up, and then the Western powers are looking like they're ready to go to war as well. We just reported recently that Poland is basically preparing for war right now. They're starting to build lots of trenches and defensive capabilities on the eastern side of their country. So hopefully we don't get to a point where NATO is involved in this war against Russia. And then obviously we have a lot of issues down in the Middle East right now, and the U.S. could get tied up down there with Iran. So it is definitely getting scary and crazy all over the world right now, and that's why I wanted to show you that update regarding these Iranian satellites going into space here very soon. So I hope you guys got something out of this update today, though. If you did, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.